Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments, because sometimes a single story can awaken a heart. Now listen carefully. When you feel empty inside, it's not the world turning away from you. It's Allah calling you to remember Him. That emptiness you feel is not a punishment. It's a message from the one who created your heart. Yusuf Alayhissalom knew that feeling. He was left alone in the darkness of the well, abandoned by those he trusted, surrounded by silence so deep it could crush the soul. But in that silence, something sacred happened. He began to speak to Allah, and Allah answered. When the world had turned its back, Allah opened His door. That's what emptiness really is, not a void, but a doorway. When you lose the sweetness of this world, it's because your soul is hungry for remembrance. Allah removes the noise so you can finally hear His voice. And just like Yusuf Alayhissalom, when you call out to Him from your own well, from your loneliness, from your heartbreak, from your exhaustion, He will lift you in ways no human could. The emptiness you feel is not a sign of weakness. It's proof that your heart still remembers where it came from. So when you feel hollow, don't rush to fill it with the world. Fill it with Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah. That's how Yusuf found peace in darkness. And that's how you will too. Because every time you feel empty inside, it's Allah saying to you, "Come closer, my servant. Remember me, and I will fill your heart again." And as Yusuf Alayhissalom sat alone in that well, with nothing but darkness surrounding him, he discovered something the world could never give: the sweetness of being alone with Allah. Every tear that fell became a prayer, every breath a remembrance. He didn't ask, "Why me?" He whispered, "Ya Allah, you are with me." And that was enough. When his brothers forgot him, Allah remembered him. When people walked away, angels drew near. That's what the emptiness inside you is. The same moment Yusuf felt before everything changed. It's the space Allah creates when He wants you to find Him again. You see, Allah doesn't fill your heart with pain to punish you. He empties it so He can pour His light inside. When He takes away the comfort of this world, it's to give you the peace of remembrance. When He removes people, it's so you'll stop depending on them and turn to Him. That's what Yusuf learned in the darkness. That true peace is not found when the world sees you, but when Allah hears you. So if your heart feels hollow, if the silence feels heavy, don't fear it. That silence is sacred. It's the same silence that once surrounded a prophet in a well, a man who became great not through power, but through patience. Because emptiness is not the end, it's the beginning of faith. And when you fill that emptiness with dhikr, you'll see what Yusuf saw: that Allah never leaves those who remember Him, even when the world forgets. And as Yusuf Alayhissalom grew older, the same stillness that once surrounded him in the well followed him through every stage of life. But now, he recognized it. What once felt like emptiness became a familiar voice, the voice of Allah reminding him that peace doesn't live in comfort, but in remembrance. When he was a slave, when he was imprisoned, when he was forgotten by people, he never let that emptiness consume him, because he had filled it with dhikr. Every breath was Subhanallah. Every night was Ya Allah. Every hardship became an act of worship. That's how the emptiness turned into strength. And that is what your heart is longing for too. The reason the world feels dull, the reason the victories feel hollow, is because your soul is calling you back to the one who made it. The same way Yusuf found light in the darkness, you can find peace in your pain, but only through remembrance. When you whisper His name in your loneliness, the angels respond. When you bow your head in silence, He draws closer. That's what the Prophet Yusuf taught through his life, that emptiness is not absence, it's preparation. Allah empties your heart of everything temporary so that when He fills it again, it's only with what's eternal. So when the world grows quiet, when nothing satisfies you anymore, don't see it as a curse. It's an invitation, a sacred moment when Allah says to your heart, "You have tried everything else, now try me." And when you finally do, you'll feel what Yusuf felt in the well: complete peace in complete solitude. Because the heart that remembers Allah is never truly empty. It's the only one that's full. And as the story of Yusuf Alayhissalom continues, his life becomes the mirror of every soul that's ever felt forgotten. When he sat in the prison, years after being taken from his home, the silence must have felt endless. But in that silence, Allah was with him. shaping his heart, purifying his patience, preparing him for something far greater than freedom. What looked like emptiness was actually transformation. The same heart that once cried in the well now glowed with certainty. Yusuf learned that when Allah takes everything from around you, it's because He wants you to find everything within you, where His light already lives. And that's the lesson your heart is whispering too. When the laughter fades, when the world feels hollow, it's because your soul is remembering its true home. Allah doesn't allow emptiness to destroy you. He allows it to return you. He removes the noise so you can hear your own dua. He takes away comfort so you can rediscover connection. That's why your sadness feels sacred, because it's not loneliness. It's His presence calling you deeper. So when your chest feels heavy and your heart feels lost, remember Yusuf Alayhissalom in the darkness. Calm, patient, whispering to the only one who never left. That's what the emptiness means. Allah hasn't abandoned you. He's drawing you back. And when you finally answer, when you start to fill that emptiness with remembrance, everything around you will begin to change. Not because the world got brighter, but because your heart finally did. And when Yusuf Alayhissalom was finally freed from the prison, he didn't emerge bitter. He emerged purified. The same silence that once surrounded him had turned into wisdom. The same loneliness that once crushed him had turned into strength. Because he learned what every believer must one day understand. When Allah makes you feel empty, it's not because He has forgotten you. It's because He is preparing your heart for something greater than you can imagine. Every tear Yusuf shed in the darkness watered the tree of his destiny. Every moment he felt unseen was written with purpose. Allah was teaching him, and us, that remembrance is not something you do only when you're strong, but what saves you when you're weak. When Yusuf stood before the king, when honor returned to him, he didn't say, "Look what I achieved." He said, "Indeed, my Lord was gentle with me." That's what happens when you let Allah fill your emptiness. You stop chasing what the world calls success and start recognizing His mercy in every detail. So if you feel hollow, forgotten, small, don't despair. Yusuf's well was deeper, his loneliness heavier, but Allah turned it all into light. The same can happen to you, because that ache inside isn't something to escape. It's a sign that your heart is still alive. It's calling for the one who created it. Answer that call with prayer, with dhikr, with trust. And one day, you'll look back at your emptiness and whisper, just as Yusuf did, "My Lord was gentle with me all along." And when that truth finally settles in your heart, you begin to see what Yusuf Alayhissalom saw, that every loss, every silence, every moment of emptiness was never against you. It was for you. The well that once felt like a grave became the first step to the throne. The prison that seemed like the end became the place where dreams were born. That's what happens when you fill emptiness with remembrance. It transforms what's around you because it transforms what's within you. Yusuf didn't wait for life to get easier before trusting Allah. He trusted, and life became easier through that trust. Allah allowed him to be forgotten by people so he could be remembered by heaven. He allowed him to be alone so he could learn that true companionship is only with Him. And that's what the emptiness in your chest is, a sacred whisper saying, "You've been looking for peace in everything but me." When you finally listen to that whisper, when you sit with your silence and let your heart breathe His name, Allah, 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 you'll feel it. The weight will lift. The ache will soften. The same way Yusuf found light in the darkness, you'll find peace in the places you thought were empty. Because the heart that remembers Allah is never abandoned. It may be tested, it may be broken, but it is never forgotten. So the next time you feel hollow, don't run from it. Let it lead you back to Him. Because that emptiness is not the absence of something. It's the presence of His mercy calling you home. And when you finally answer that call, everything inside you begins to shift. The pain that once drained you starts to purify you. The silence that once scared you becomes your safest place. And the tears that once felt endless begin to taste like peace. Yusuf Alayhissalom taught the world through his story that the truest strength isn't found in power or in people. It's found in patience, in sabr, in remembering Allah when no one else remembers you. That's what turns emptiness into gold. When you say, "Ya Allah," in your darkest moment, you are doing exactly what Yusuf did in his well. You're proving that faith doesn't live in comfort. It lives in surrender. Allah fills your emptiness not by giving you what you want, but by giving you Himself. And once your heart knows Him, nothing else feels missing. Yusuf's story is proof that no pain lasts forever and no emptiness is wasted. The same heart that cried in the well later forgave his brothers with a smile. The same man who was thrown away became the one who saved others. That's how Allah works. He breaks only to rebuild stronger. So when you feel empty, don't see it as loss. See it as the space where faith begins to grow. Because the heart that has been emptied for Allah will never stay hollow. He will fill it with light, with peace, and with a love so deep that you'll never mistake loneliness for emptiness again. And when that happens, you'll whisper what Yusuf once whispered, with tears of gratitude and a smile of peace. Indeed, my Lord is gentle in all that He wills. And as your heart learns to live in that remembrance, the world itself begins to feel different. The noise that once distracted you quiets down, the desires that once consumed you fade away, and what remains is a calm so deep you can almost hear it breathing. That's the peace Yusuf Alayhissalom carried even when everything was uncertain. He walked through betrayal, through captivity, through years of waiting. Yet his heart stayed steady because it was anchored in Allah. That's what remembrance does. It doesn't erase the storm, it teaches you how to stand through it. When Allah loves someone, He teaches them what He taught Yusuf, how to smile in patience, how to see wisdom in delay, and how to find light in the very darkness that others run from. The emptiness you once feared becomes the most sacred space within you, the place where you meet your Lord. You begin to understand that remembrance isn't something you do, it's something you become. You walk through life whispering His name in your heart, not because you're trying to remember, but because you can't forget anymore. And that's when the world can no longer shake you. Because you've seen what Yusuf saw, that Allah never leaves His servant, not in the well, not in the prison, not in the silence. The emptiness was never abandonment. It was the invitation that led you back home. And when your heart finally rests in that truth, you'll realize you were never empty at all. You were just being prepared to be filled with Him. And when your heart finally reaches that place, when remembrance becomes your breath and faith your shelter, you begin to live the way Yusuf Alayhissalom lived, with peace that cannot be taken away. You stop searching for happiness in people because you've tasted the joy of being close to Allah. You stop fearing loneliness because you've realized that being alone with Him is never loneliness at all. It's the sweetest company your soul could know. Every test, every loss, every quiet night that once felt unbearable now feels like a mercy because you've learned the language of the heart, silence filled with dhikr. The world around you still changes, but inside, you stay steady because your heart finally belongs to the one who never changes. That's what Yusuf discovered when he looked back at his life, that every moment of emptiness was guiding him toward fullness, that every pain was carving a place for light. And one day, you'll see it too. You'll look back at the nights you cried, the prayers you whispered in the dark, the times you thought Allah was far, and you'll smile, because you'll realize He was the closest then. The emptiness you feared was the bridge to knowing Him. And once your heart knows Him, nothing else can ever fill it the same way again. So if you ever feel hollow, don't run from it. Let it lead you into sujud. Let it carry you into dhikr. Let it become the reminder that your soul was created to remember. Because the moment you do, the emptiness will turn into peace. The same peace that Yusuf Alayhissalom carried through every trial. And your heart will whisper what His once did. My Lord was with me all along. And when that realization finally takes root, your whole being begins to change. You walk softer, you speak calmer, and you look at the world with eyes that see beyond its surface. You understand now what Yusuf Alayhissalom understood, that everything taken, everything delayed, everything that once hurt you was a form of divine guidance. The well, the prison, the years of silence, they were not interruptions in His story. They were the very path that led him to Allah. And your path is no different. When Allah loves you, He doesn't always give you ease. Sometimes, He gives you emptiness. Because emptiness is the classroom of the soul, the place where hearts learn to listen. And once you've listened long enough, you hear what Yusuf heard in the dark. I am with you. Those words change everything. They turn despair into worship, pain into patience, and waiting into remembrance. You start to see life not as random, but as perfectly written. Every hardship becomes a verse, every tear a prayer, every silence a reminder that Allah never leaves his servants. Yusuf Alayhissalom didn't find peace because he escaped his trials. He found peace because he discovered Allah inside them. And when you reach that same awareness, you'll find that your emptiness has turned into light, steady, pure, and unshakable. You'll realize that your heart was never broken. It was being opened. And through that opening, Allah poured something eternal, His closeness, His mercy, His love. So now, when the quiet moments return and the world feels distant again, you won't fear them anymore. You'll smile, close your eyes, and whisper what Yusuf's heart whispered in the stillness. Even in my emptiness, my Lord is near. And when you start living with that truth, life itself becomes an act of remembrance. You wake up with gratitude instead of worry, because you know that every day begins with His mercy. You walk through trials with calmness, because you've already seen how Allah writes beauty out of pain. You no longer chase what leaves or cling to what fades, because your heart has found its anchor, the one who never changes, the one who never leaves. That's what Yusuf Alayhissalom carried in his heart when he finally stood before his brothers again. The pain, the betrayal, the loneliness, all of it was still in his memory, but now it glowed with meaning. He didn't say, "Look what I lost." He said, "Indeed, my Lord was gentle with me." That is what happens when the emptiness inside you turns into remembrance. You stop seeing life as a series of losses and start seeing it as a journey of mercy. The very things that once broke you now teach you. The very prayers you thought went unanswered now define your peace. You realize that Allah didn't leave you empty. He left you open so His light could enter. And when it does, you finally understand that your emptiness was never weakness. It was love in disguise. Yusuf's story teaches us that when Allah allows you to be emptied, it's because He's preparing you to be filled with something eternal. So don't fight the stillness. Don't fear the silence. Let your heart remember. Let your soul return. And one day, when you look back at your life, you'll smile through tears and say the same words He did. My Lord was gentle with me through it all. And as you carry that truth with you, your soul begins to rest in a way it never has before. The things that once made you anxious lose their grip. The fears that once haunted you begin to fade. And in their place comes a peace that feels almost sacred, because it is. It's the peace of knowing that Allah has always been near, even when you couldn't feel Him. Yusuf Alayhissalom lived through betrayal, abandonment, imprisonment, and years of being unseen. Yet not once was he forgotten. Every trial was perfectly timed, every silence full of hidden mercy. And that's what your life is too. Perfectly written, even when it feels broken. When you feel empty, remember, it's not because something's missing, it's because something divine is being planted inside you. Allah empties your heart of this world to make room for Himself. And when that happens, everything else changes. The same pain that once made you cry now makes you pray. The same loss that once broke you now teaches you how to trust. You start to understand that being empty isn't about losing. It's about being prepared to receive something pure, something eternal. That's what Yusuf learned in the well, in the prison, and finally on the throne. That no matter where life takes you, peace doesn't come from what's around you. It comes from who's within you. So the next time your heart feels hollow, whisper, "Ya Allah, fill this space with you." Because one day, you'll look back at that emptiness and see it for what it truly was. Not darkness, but the very light that guided you home. And when that light finally settles in your heart, you'll understand that what you once called emptiness was actually Allah's gentlest way of bringing you closer. Every quiet night, every unanswered question, every tear that fell in solitude, it was never wasted. It was all shaping your heart to recognize Him in a way comfort never could. Yusuf Alayhissalam's story ends not in sorrow, but in serenity. The same man who was once thrown away became the one who forgave. The same heart that was once filled with pain became the source of mercy for others. That's what happens when you let Allah fill your emptiness. He transforms it into compassion, into wisdom, into light for those who are still lost. And maybe that's why Allah lets us taste loneliness, so that when we finally find peace, we can help others find it too. Your heart, once broken, becomes a lantern. Your scars become signs of survival, proof that Allah's mercy never left you. The emptiness that once hurt so deeply now becomes a sacred reminder that everything you lost led you back to the one you can never lose. So when life grows quiet again, when the world feels far and your heart feels hollow, remember Yusuf Alayhissalom, alone in darkness, yet never truly alone. Remember that every silence is a conversation, every ache is an invitation, every emptiness is love wearing a different face. Because in the end, when you fill your emptiness with Allah, you will find what Yusuf found, that every moment of pain was only his way of saying, "My servant, I was with you all along." And in the end, when the story of your life unfolds, you'll finally see what Yusuf Alayhissalam saw, that every fall was a step toward Allah, every silence was a form of guidance, and every emptiness was love in disguise. You'll look back at the nights you thought you were alone and realize those were the moments you were most held. The well, the prison, the waiting, they were never punishments, they were passages. Yusuf didn't rise in spite of his emptiness, he rose because of it. Because when a heart is emptied for Allah, it becomes the perfect vessel for His light. And you, too, will reach that point. The day your soul stops searching for comfort in this world and starts finding it in remembrance. You'll stop asking why me and start whispering Alhamdulillah. You chose me. You'll understand that what you once called emptiness was actually the moment Allah's love became loud enough for your heart to hear. So when you feel empty inside, remember, it's not the end of your peace, it's the beginning of it. It's Allah clearing space for something better, something eternal, something that only He can give. And when that realization fills your chest and tears fall not from pain but from recognition, you'll say the same words that Yusuf once said through a smile of faith and a heart full of light. Indeed, my Lord was gentle with me all along.